heart to learning, open up my heart to love. Help me to know myself and how I should learn. I open up to learning, I open up to joy. Help me to learn a language and let it be my happiness. I open up to learning, I open up to joy. Help me to...
Hi everyone, welcome again. Today we're going to talk about how your thinking affects your learning, and you'll find the transcript as usual in the notes here on YouTube and Spotify and most of the platforms that you're listening on. Okay, so let's begin. It's funny how we often think of learning as something that happens out there in books and classrooms, on YouTube videos or podcasts. We imagine that knowledge floating around, we imagine the knowledge floating around, waiting for us to catch it like butterflies in a net. But what if the real work of learning doesn't happen out there at all? What if learning is actually something that happens within and the way we think? The very atmosphere of our mind determines whether we absorb, resist, or reshape what's offered to us. Let's pause for a moment and try a little experiment. Picture yourself in a room trying to learn a new language. It could be anything: Dutch, Japanese, Farsi, English. You've got your notes open, a lesson queued up, a fresh cup of tea, but something inside feels heavy. You're thinking, "Oh, I'm not good at this," or "I'll never remember these words," or maybe "I should have started this 10 years ago." Even before you hear the first syllable, your mind has set up the atmosphere: foggy, grey, maybe even stormy. The content of the lesson hasn't failed you. It hasn't even had the chance, but your state of mind has already filtered what you'll allow in. You see, learning doesn't begin with data. It begins with openness, not just to the subject, but to yourself. If your thoughts are heavy with judgment or cluttered with noise, learning becomes like trying to write on wet paper. But if your thoughts are still, gentle, curious, suddenly the page is dry and receptive. Words stick, patterns click, and understanding flows. We rarely connect this with our ability to learn, but it's the foundation of everything. The mind isn't just a container, it's a mirror. And what it reflects determines what it can hold. You might think, but how can I control my thoughts? The truth is, you don't need to control them, you only need to notice them. The next time you sit down to learn something new, listen inward first. What tone is playing in your inner background? Is it tense, doubtful, rushed? That tone will color everything. Now, here's the beautiful part: you can shift that tone without fighting it. Try saying softly to yourself, "I'm open today," or "Let's see what's here." Or even more simply, "I'm listening." It's not about pretending to be excited or forcing yourself into positivity. It's about turning gently inwards and inviting clarity. When you do that, something subtle begins to happen. You may notice a slight feeling of space, as if the clutter has stepped aside. Into that space, understanding can enter, not because you forced it, but because you made room for it. This isn't about magic, it's about alignment. When you meet learning with resistance, it becomes work. When you meet it with presence, it becomes relationship. And relationships thrive on attention, softness, and time. Think of a plant on a windowsill. If you scold it for not growing faster, nothing happens. But if you water it, give it sun, and allow it to unfold at its pace, growth is natural. You are not so different. One of the biggest mistakes we make is thinking that we need to get smarter or try harder. But maybe the real invitation is to get quieter, to turn away from the storm of self judgment and return to the still place inside that says, I am capable of receiving what I need. It sounds abstract, but it's deeply practical. Have you ever noticed how easily you learn when you're relaxed? Or how quickly children learn when they're playing? That's not a fluke, it's how we're built. Learning isn't about accumulation, it's about resonance. When your mind resonates with what is being offered, it stays. And when you're in a state of quiet attention, the strangest thing happens. You begin to know things without trying, as if the knowledge was already within you, just waiting for you to become receptive. That's not to say you won't forget things or make mistakes, but you'll stop taking those as signs of failure. Instead, they'll be like waves in the ocean, part of the natural rhythm. You fall, you rise, you fall again, but the learning goes deeper each time. So the next time you feel stuck or frustrated, try this. Close your eyes, take one breath, let the judgment drop. Remind yourself that you don't need to get it all right. You only need to show up with openness. Because what you think in those quiet in between moments sets the tone for what you'll become. And once you truly see that, learning stops being a struggle. It becomes a kind of listening, not just to the world, but to the wisdom quietly blooming within you all along. See ya. Have a nice day.